Today in this video about free ChatGPT link building, we'll be talking about how to get free DR90 and DR80 backlinks using AI SEO and some of the best tactics, workflows and strategies in this interview with Chris Panteli from Linkifi. And we'll basically be talking about ways to get backlinks, how to use ChatGPT to automate a lot of it for you, and some of the tips and techniques that he's using actively right now to build backlinks at scale using AI. And at the end of this video, I'll include a free SOP that breaks down all the workflows, all the templates, all the sort of strategies that we've talked about today into a nice, easy to understand and organized format. Let's go. What's your favorite way to get backlinks in 2024?
For us, expert quote building, answering journalists directly. Editorially earned white hat links. Expert quote's just the sort of umbrella term for answering journalist requests. So you want to, as an expert, answer a journalist and get your quote as an expert included in their article. For us, alongside pure digital PR, I would say this is definitely the best route that like an individual or someone just looking to get started with high authority link building, it's the best way to get started.
And then how would you do that? Like, where would you start?
HARO is the best place, which is now Connectively. It used to be free, completely free. They're right in the midst of switching everything over to their pay-to-play platform, although they are still sending the free email. So there seems to have been a delay. I don't know if it's on their back end. Maybe there's been a backlash from journalists or users, but certainly within the next few weeks, I imagine it'll be fully moved over. And I think on the new platform, you can get a free account, which gives you 5 free pitches per month, which isn't a lot, considering the competition is high, but I can talk about easy ways to get those first 5 links, little tips and tricks. But yeah, that's definitely the best way to get started.
Nice, and we'll come on to how you're using ChatGPT in a second as well to get backlinks. So are you mainly focusing on HARO? Have you tried, like, for example, SourceBottle? Turkle is another one that I've seen people mention.
Yeah, so we offer a premium service, what we do at Linkifi. Turkle, which is now rebranded to Featured, is good, but it's more of a roundup. So they actually produce the content for the publications, and then there'll be a roundup. It's not really a true editorially earned, like, journalistic link. So you might be on like a page with a plumber and a lawyer and a doctor who's all giving quotes on a subject which links them all together in a really wide way. So we don't actually use Featured in or Turkle, but anywhere where you can get access to a journalist directly reaching out looking for expert commentary. So Connectively, HARO is the main one. Quoted is another one. Press Plugs is a really good UK one. SourceBottle is also good. They have quite a lot of Australian publications on SourceBottle, so it's worth checking out. But also just #journo request on Twitter is an excellent source. Journalists use Twitter or X. If you just set an alert for #journo request on Twitter, you'll see some absolutely like mega journalists writing for massive publications, sourcing every day.
That's interesting. So you can actually use Twitter to get these backlinks and to find.
Yeah,
I've
directly.
Never heard of that before. So how would you do that then, step by step?
Go to Twitter and just follow. I think the account is #journo request, and then just set an alert to be pinged every time. Because what they'll do as an account, that Twitter account will actually pick up all journalists using the #journo request, and then they'll retweet that out. And these are actually what are picked up by a lot of the other services. So like Press Plugs or Editorial or Quoted, they'll actually be pulling these journo requests in from Twitter and putting them onto their own platform. So yeah, just follow #journo request and then just set the alerts on Twitter to ping you every time that they ping like a new journo request.
And then if you wanted to say just get maybe 3 or 5 backlinks a week using all these methods, like how many pitches are you sending out per week?
Okay, 3 to 5 a week you're gonna have to send a lot of pitches. What I would recommend for someone starting out is to get your first sort of 5 of these high authority links. What I would do is determine your niche and then find your competitors within your niche, and find competitors that are prominently displaying a press badge on their website. So let's say you're in the gardening niche, find 2, 3, 4 of your competitors that are in that space and have a look to see which domains that they're publicly displaying as having their site featured in as a press badge. It normally says featured in, and then they'll have like Homes and Gardens, Express, Yahoo, MSN. They might have, usually you'll see these sort of logo labels on the front of the site. What this is telling you is these are places that they have almost certainly acquired links via this method of link building. Then what you can do is, when you're doing your expert quote commentary via Connectively with the 5 free pictures a month, or you're scouring for journal requests on Twitter, target these domains that you are seeing prominently have been won previously by your competitors, because if they've won them, then you can win them as well. And if they've got them, you need them. If they've got homes and gardens and you've got a gardening website, you need a link from homes and gardens. So that's definitely the best way to start.
Yeah, that makes sense. So you're basically doing an SEO heist, as some people would say on Twitter, but for link building and reverse engineering your competitors' PR, figuring out, okay, these are the sites that they've got PR and backlinks from, so we're going to approach them as well.
Exactly, yeah. And you know that if you've got a good persona, we can get onto this in a bit as well, it's really important, credibility, web visibility as yourself as well. If you've got an AI generated face and you're not a real person, it's a lot harder to win links via this sort of link building, and it's getting harder and harder as the weeks go on, with AI spam hitting the journalist inbox, and verification being a really important part of the journalistic editorial process now. So if you are a gardening expert, or you can at least demonstrate that via an active LinkedIn profile and an about page on your website and a real picture or a couple of real pictures, then you've got a really good shot of winning that gardening query that's come for homes and gardens looking for expert gardeners. You're already going to be in the top 10% of responses, outbeating the AI spam that's just being blasted at that. Because you can set yourself up for a really high chance to win in the top 10% just by getting a few of the basic things right. Yeah, it's a really big problem, because with this sort of link building, we want to be targeting the biggest publications in the world. So we want to win links for clients, or if you're doing it yourself, you want to get New York Times, New York Post, Express, Forbes, US News, the absolute creme de la creme of domains, massive DRs, millions of monthly organic traffic. The journalists that are sourcing for expert commentary for these publications are professionals. They are absolute professionals in their field, and they take their job very seriously. So one of the biggest issues with using ChatGPT or AI in just a vanilla form, input, output, nothing else, is two problems. First of all, AI generated content is going to be flagged as AI generated, and journalists are being mandated from their editors, from the people in charge of the publications, to they want human written content. And oftentimes they're being asked to sign waivers on the articles that they submit, which includes the quotes that they're including. So first and foremost, ChatGPT, without any prompting or just asking the question that the journalists asked and then sending the AI generated answer, it's going to be flagged either by the journalists' independent checks, or certain platforms have inbuilt check systems already. Then this is the way that likely the industry's moving anyway. Second problem is plagiarism, and this is arguably much more important for the journalist and the publication which they work for. AI content in the vanilla form, so if we're just looking at the ChatGPT LLM, which is trained up to a certain point, all of that information, whichever way it's being regurgitated, will have been in some way lifted from other sources, and therefore there's a high probability that if ran through a plagiarism checker, it will ping and flag as being plagiarized, and that can get the journalist into a lot of trouble. But that doesn't mean to say, we have to panic, we can't use AI to write pitches. We absolutely can, we just have to get away with it and make sure that we're injecting fresh data into the AI, and we're making it not look like AI, and we're not being in breach of any plagiarism checks. And that can just be as simple as a re-edit or some clever prompt injections before you even start.
What sort of prompt injections are you using? Do you have any recommendations on that?
We're testing, you know this, Julian, it's changing by the minute.
Literally,
I mean, Gemini just came. Yeah, Gemini was just launched a couple of days ago. ChatGPT, Claude, Anthropic's model, Claude 2 on Poe is a really nice model. The problem with most of the sort of the tools as they are is you just can't be using it in its standalone form. So any injection of fresh data from outside of the model is going to create a almost certainly much better response than if you didn't do that. So some of the ways that we're using it, if you get asked a journalist query, let's say you're in the tech space or a more fast moving space, like gardening is normally pretty standard stuff, but let's say you're in the tech space and a journalist is sourcing opinions on the new Apple Vision Pros, let's say. They've just come out, so you can't ask ChatGPT, hey, from the perspective of a tech expert, are the Apple Vision Pros to any good? It's not going to know what you're talking about. But also at the same time, it's quite hard to put loads of data into ChatGPT and then get it to read it and spit something out which is useful. One thing that you can do, which is really good, is if you find a couple of fresh news articles, so stuff that's come out recently, not the highest visible publications, so you don't want to take like a New York Times article on the Apple Vision Pros and a Forbes article, because a lot of people will have looked at those. But if you find a more niche, recent news article by a well-respected publication, and file, print and save as that article as a PDF file, and then try and find like a conflicting article. So maybe find a positive review of the Apple Vision Pros, file, print, save as a PDF, and then find a conflicting one, or one with like a slightly different opinion, coming at it from a slightly different angle, and file, print, save as a PDF for that one as well. Then what you can do to begin formulating a more unique pitch is you can upload both those PDF documents to ChatGPT using the little document uploader, ask ChatGPT to read both articles, and then depending on what sort of pitch you want to formulate, you may be a tech expert who feels very strongly that the Apple Vision Pros are a great step forward and Apple's leading the way. You can ask ChatGPT to analyze both articles and formulate an opinion leaning towards wherever you want to direct it to, and ask it to take fresh perspectives, data, opinions, and meld it together in a unique formulated response. That way you've got brand new data outside of the model, and ChatGPT can read these documents in a really clever and fast way, and it does a fantastic job of cross-analyzing the data between the two separate documents as well, and it can give you some really nice output.
It's amazing. Yeah, I've never thought about doing that before, but I'm tempted to test it. I'm actually thinking like what I'm going to do after this is take the transcript from this particular video, turn it into an SLP, and then test it out myself in terms of what you recommend. I think that's a really unique and fresh way to look at digital PR and link building.
It's one of the most fascinating things about AI. We've almost become used to something now that we can just ask a question, and we've only had this technology in its current sort of form for 12 months. And already it's just like, we're getting annoyed that ChatGPT can't what it can do like independently on its own is fantastic. And we've almost become like just used to that now. But its ability to analyze like documents against each other is scary. It's so good at, especially ChatGPT. I'm just testing with Gemini now, although Gemini hasn't got the like document upload feature yet. But yeah, its ability to read the documents is the potential use cases for it is incredible.
Yeah, one of the things that I did actually just before this call was I was creating a new article on LinkedIn to rank. And what I could do is basically a document with all the details of whatever I want to sell, and ask ChatGPT to use that and create a sales page that ranks for the keyword based on the document that I gave it. And it just, it sums it up better than any copywriter that I had first time round. It's absolutely insane.
Yeah, it really is, yeah. And for digital PR as well, for some of the campaigns we're doing, pure digital PR where we're taking the story to the journalists, its ability to handle vast amounts of data and just give you something which is newsworthy. And it can find points of correlation as well that may not have been like intuitively visible to us as like a human, let's say, looking at, I don't know, a new top 500 list, top rich list 500 with all different data points, birthdays of the people, and these different things. We can ask these models to analyze the data and give us some suggestions on what would be an interesting correlation between variables that we hadn't even considered. And you can get really deep in the weeds with it. It's really cool.
Yeah, that's what I've heard about, for example, ChatGPT. And without going off on a tangent, we'll bring it back to link building in a second, but it's like you can get ChatGPT to solve problems in ways that humans would never imagine. For example, I think there was a case of ChatGPT playing Go and beating like the number one person in the world for that, in a way, playing the game in a way that had never really been thought of before. And it's like it finds new connections and new ways to do things that humans wouldn't have perceived is possible.
Yeah, nuts.
Yeah, absolutely. What sort of backlinks are you getting when you're doing this? It sounds like pretty high DR, like DR90s, DR80s, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I think we built about 1,400 links last year, and our average DR is 80 with millions of traffic. So as we've grown as an agency and got used to, because don't forget these journo requests, PR requests via Connectively or Press Plugs or any of the major platforms, not every site on there is like a perfect site for a link builder, because this is still really, it's PR, it's not for link builders. Obviously HARO was hijacked by link builders, as anything that is good is often the case with SEOs. They find something good and then ruin it. But we target ultra premium, and as we've gone on through the years, we've built our own database of publications so that we know, okay, this site is always sourcing for expert commentary, but they never quote, they never link, sorry. So they have an editorial policy at the top level where they just don't include links. So we know not to waste pitches and pitch that publication. Some publications they've got like seemingly quite good metrics, so high DR, reasonable organic traffic, but it's like a scam, it's a scam. So you're still finding scams on these platforms. So you'll pitch this seemingly like worthwhile site. It's got like a decent DR, reasonable traffic. You'll pitch it and you'll get an email response back. Or if we've pitched it for 2 or 3 clients, we'll get the same email back 2 or 3 times saying, hey, thanks for your pitch. Unfortunately, I've got no space left in this article, but if you link to my other website, then I can give you a link to this other website. So these 3-way link scams are happening. So we internally blacklist all the domains that we know this happens on. There's also sites that you might see and you think, oh, that's an interesting site. It's not the biggest DR. It's a DR, let's say, I don't know, 60, but it's got, or maybe it's a DR, high DR, sorry, let's say DR 78, DR 79, but its traffic's 20K, let's say, and you think, normally that's alarm bells. Very high DR and sort of small organic traffic can be alarm bells. But often you'll find SaaS companies that haven't really got any sort of like SEO in their content. They'll often have this sort of mismatch on their DR and traffic, because they are real businesses. They are email providers or web design companies or any sort of SaaS tool. They'll often have a high DR and lower traffic. But for a tech client, these are fantastic links because it's a real genuine website, an absolutely real business. Google knows that, and it's a great place to get a link from. So yeah, I think as an agency, we've honed our services in order to deliver like maximum value across the broad spectrum of what's available to pitch.
When it comes to, say, key KPIs, let's say someone's trying to implement this themselves, what do you recommend in terms of, okay, how long does it take to write a pitch? How many pitches should you send? What sort of metrics do you recommend in terms of managing each part of the campaign?
You're going to have a higher success rate early on, because you should be targeting the domains which you're most likely to win from. So that's the key is, I would say, is if you're just starting out, I possibly wouldn't approach this as like a long-term indefinite link building plan. I would approach it as a niche specific and then set a target list of sites. So if you're in the gardening niche, I would pick the 10 sites that you can definitely win a link from, that your competitors have got links from. There's definitely 10: Homes and Gardens, Better Homes and Gardens, Express, Daily Mail, The Sun, 10 sites. And then I would pitch continually until you win all 10 of those links. And it's really hard to tell in terms of number of pitches sent. Obviously, our metrics vary wildly. And oftentimes it boils down to 2 things. And that will be the strength of the expert profile. So like I said, if you said you're Julian Goldie and you're an expert gardener, and you've got a gardening website, and we hit your YouTube channel and all you're talking about is AI link building, and we look at your LinkedIn and all you're talking about is SEO and marketing, and then we type in Julian Goldie gardening and there's nothing on the internet to do with you and gardening, it's going to be much less likely for you to win a link than an actual expert gardener who's got a gardening website and he's holding a spade on his LinkedIn banner profile picture. So the strength of the expert profile. This is why we tend to do really well in YMYL. People are often scared of link building in these spaces, but if you've got a doctor representing the website, then it's one of the spaces that we can absolutely kill. And you can also make sure you can assign your website, align your website with one of these experts. This is a service we offer at Linkifi called ExpertFi. So if you've got a website in the, let's say, the sleep affiliate space, you're flogging mattresses as an affiliate. If you haven't got a doctor on your website anywhere, then go and get one. Hire a doctor, get him to write some content, get him to review some content, and then get his permission to pitch journalist requests as him. And you'll build your own EAT, and you'll also be able to win backlinks in the name of the doctor, but linking back to your mattress affiliate site.
Obviously, if the doctor comes off the payroll one day, would you have to remove all those links, or it's okay to keep them up?
Yeah, the way we do it is we've built relationships with experts in certain areas, and we just do a one-off payment for the content with their permission to pitch for a duration of time to win links.
Yeah, that makes
and then just have it all.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I've seen with, for example, HARO is the backlinks can sometimes come in 12 months later. Like, for example,
Oh yeah.
we stopped doing HARO link building like 12 months ago. We're still getting backlinks in today from it. Does somebody, is that normal? Does it normally take 2 or 3 years sometimes? Or in 20 years' time, when yeah, am I getting backlinks from this?
Antique backlink building, that's a service we can offer. Yeah, long editorial policies on publications is a common thing. So we always tell clients, if they sign up with us, don't expect your first link even for the first 3 to 4 weeks. What we're doing initially in that first month is we are sending out lots and lots of pitches and planting lots and lots of seeds ready for them to sprout in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks. We had a client just recently who we completed their order. I think it was a 5-link order or a 10-link order. We completed the order. It was all done, wrapped up. And then 6 months later, we got a link on the New York Times, do follow. So we just let the client know, hey, here's a freebie that came in 6 months after we finished your campaign. But yeah, some of the absolutely massive publications have really long lead times. Some are much faster, but others can take a long time to get. Yeah.
And then when it comes to making sure that your content is original, would you recommend, like, for example, creating something with ChatGPT and in the strategy you mentioned before, like comparing different documents and then taking whatever angle you want, but then also would you run it through, say, Originality before sending it off to the journalist?
No, Originality works by spoofing the algorithm that's testing in terms of punctuation, grammar, cutting words and sentences in like odd places. It's really obvious, in my opinion, and when we've done our tests with it, that it's not written by a human, even though it passes with flying colors the AI detection, because it's just gaming whatever algorithm is measuring that for AI. It's a crazy space to be in. As fast as the AI is able to trick the testers, then that we're getting new testers, and I imagine it will be undetectable in a matter of weeks and months. But what we teach and what we do in-house is you have to think about, at the end of the day, what it is that journalists are looking for. So journalists are professional writers with a really good understanding of the English language, and what they'll want to do is that they'll be intrigued if they see an interesting linguistic flurry or an interesting use of an idiom or a phrase or the way of explaining a simple idea in a slightly unique way. And you can only really get that with the addition of a human touch. So everything we do is at least started probably with AI, but then there is always a human edited element. Because, for example, if you see a query looking for an expert to give opinions on best ways to improve your credit score. So for a query like that, there's 2 things the journalist is looking for. Number 1 is an expert. So they don't want to quote a gardener on best ways to improve your credit score. They want to quote a finance expert. Better the expert, the better. But what they're not looking for there is some crazy original like idea, because what they want to do is, as a journalist, is they want to leverage the expertise of the person that's giving that quote. So there's only so many ways you can improve your credit score realistically. So you need to pick an actual way. But then what's going to interest the journalist is if you are able just to phrase it or word it in a way that is both interesting and quotable. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. One of the things that I see with PR in general, whether you're using ChatGPT or not, and this is personally what's worked for me, is being very polarizing as well. In terms of, if you want to stand out, you got to make a splash, basically. I mean, you got to be quite polarizing and sometimes take an extreme opinion, and that's what like the best people at PR are very good at.
Yeah, it's got to be interesting, original. Extreme views can work really well. In digital PR, that is. With expert quotes, you just want to get, the journalists are getting hit with 300 plus emails per day. So on one query where they're maybe going to source, quote, 2 people within that article, like your actual percentage chances of winning is quite low. So the way that you can make your pitches stand out is, you can either be polarizing in your opinion, or you can just have sort of the basics of what the journalist is looking for to help validate and support the opinion they've already formulated for their article, but add something really unique and interesting, a really unique word. One thing which works really well with ChatGPT, and then also haven't fully tested this yet, but the Gemini has actually got a microphone. Yeah. Text to voice is brilliant, because You speak in your own way. The way that you formulate sentences, your ideas with like words and phrases, reference points that you make. So a great way, especially for an actual expert, is to outline and formulate your sort of pitch idea and then just voice to text and have absolutely no consideration for pauses, stammers, ahs, just freestyle your whole sort of argument and use as many interesting words and ideas and connectors, and just have this massive block of text go into AI and then just prompt AI to maintain the linguistic flow and the tone of voice of this piece of text, but tidy it up, make it legible, correct the spelling and grammar, and you'll get something back which will pass the AI, every AI checker there is, and it will read really well and it will contain those quotable elements that the journalists are looking for.
That's very interesting. Yeah, that makes total sense for me. Definitely. Who would you say is the PR master? Let's say in the marketing world.
Ferry's getting a lot of attention at the minute, isn't he? Or has been for a while. I say we're the young ones on his toes coming after him.
You're obviously doing a great job. Just in general, like if you looked at the world, who do you think is maybe one of the best people to learn from when it comes to PR?
PR in terms of expert quotes or true digital PR?
Yeah.
Expert.
One person that comes to mind, whether you hate him or love him, I have no opinion on that, but just from a neutral perspective in terms of marketing, I would say someone like Donald Trump. It's just amazing that they're getting attention, right? And getting quoted.
Yeah, but from a PR perspective, yeah, he certainly controls the narrative and he's able to generate media attention. In terms of answering journalist questions via these platforms, I don't know if
he's not sat on HARO all day. But I just mean in terms of PR in general. If you had to look at someone and name someone as a master, who would you say?
A master of controlling their own sort of PR.
Yeah.
As an individual or a company, because I think companies like Apple do a fantastic job with their PR and marketing. In terms of individuals, it's a team behind the individual, isn't it? Unless they're running their own social, I suppose, is a good way. So
yeah,
I'm not sure.
I think, for example, like Neil Patel has done a great job. If you just look at the amount of mentions he gets quoted, so much Backlink comes to mind as well. These guys are very.
Brian Dean also is very set in the industry in terms of marketing. Yeah, marketers have to be good at marketing, don't they? Yeah. And what Neil Patel's, he's done brilliant. Brian Dean as well, I really like. But then you've got people like Charles Flo. He's absolutely blown up. There's some great people to follow. And what's good about this space as well is that you can take one element of a successful strategy in an unrelated niche and you can apply it to your own niche. And while we're all in competition with each other, there are so many strategies and angles and different approaches that everybody can win, testing different stuff across a broad spectrum of niches and areas.
Yeah, one of the things that we've actually sounded, for example, I got mentioned like over the weekend from one of the biggest newspapers in Thailand, the Tiger, and there wasn't actually anything outbound, but they just found one of my videos and actually talking about ChatGPT and AI, and obviously that's a trending topic that they want information in, and then they quoted me in my video, and it's like sometimes you can actually get inbound quotes putting out a lot of information about trending topics.
Yeah, that's the best sort of PR, if you can just provide absolute value and then get recognized within your industry. So that's a good job. Well done. But did you get a link though? That's the important thing.
Nah, but I saw this quote the other day that said, unlinked mentions are the new mentions.
Yeah, you should go and you should ask the publication to add a link. You'd be surprised. We have a 40, 50, 60% success rate. In fact, that's where like a good portion of our links come from.
Really?
Unlinked mentions, turn in an unlinked mention. You've got to have a whole process. Make sure you're tracking. So make sure you've got alerts on your name, your brand name. And then if you get 10 unlinked mentions, let's say in the space of a month, and you reach out to all 10 publications and 4 of them will add the link, which a lot of the times they will, especially if you find the actual journalist. Sometimes the journalists have direct access to the CRMs and they'll do it in 10 minutes. They'll just email you back and go, yeah, I've added the link. And that can be on huge publications. Some publications have, for example, the Sun, the US Sun. They'll never answer an email if you try and contact anyone from the US Sun if you get an unlinked mention. But if you go to the editorial corrections department of the UK Sun and tell them you got an unlinked mention on their sister website in the US, they'll add the link in about half an hour. So it's just knowing where to go and what your chances are.
And how would you approach that? Would it just be like a couple of sentences mentioning who you are, where the page you need to link from is, etc. Is that basically?
Yeah, I'd say for your article, I'd play it. I'd see what strength of a hand I had. So, did they publish an image of you in the article?
They use my video, from you.
Did they do a screen grab of the?
They just
No?
embedded
Okay.
my video and then mention like this video about Julian Goldie, blah blah blah.
Okay. I would say, hey, look, first of all, I'd see how much they quoted me. Then I would, first of all, see if that website has got an editorial corrections department or a complaints department. I'd find an email and I'd go to them and I'd say, hey, look, just in this article, it's absolutely fantastic. You've quoted me quite extensively in this article. You've also used like an image of me. I'd really appreciate if you just add a link to my actual site just to credit the quote. So half the time, if the publication doesn't want any trouble and any threat or whiff of I'm going to cause trouble for you, there's not a lot you can do really, but a lot of the times I'll just go, oh yeah, that's fine, we've added it. Or you won't hear anything, in which case follow up. And then if you still don't hear anything, then try and find an email for the actual journalist. And you can use things like Hunter, Muckrack, or find the journalist on Twitter, see if they've got like a freelance writing website. Often journalists will have their own sort of portfolio websites where you can find a direct contact email for them. Then do the same thing with the journalist. Say, hey, you've featured me, you've really quoted me a lot, can you add a link? It doesn't take long, you just got to have some steps, tick them off and see if you won't win them all, but you will win a significant portion.
Nice. One thing I was thinking when you mentioned about Twitter and using the hashtag to get backlinks that way, have you ever experimented with anything, for example, make.com, the automation tool where, for example, you could link it to OpenAI and link it to Twitter to a specific hashtag and then have a sort of workflow where you could automate responding to some of those journalists on Twitter?
Yeah, there's a tool that automates pulling in the actual journo requests. So that's already been done in terms of like actually gathering the data in order to respond. Having the actual response as part of an automation workflow, I wouldn't suggest that. I can't for the life of me. You might win some, but I think the real skill to winning a pitch request is taking just slightly more care and attention than somebody who's doing the bare minimum, and an automated response with AI is the bare minimum, and you will still win some, I'm sure, but in terms of like it being a scalable and fruitful proposition, you'd be much better off putting your time and effort into actually determining which requests are worth mentioning, and then whether or not you are a suitable expert. Have you already got a link from that domain? Is this a domain that you've seen other people in your space link to? And then pull the trigger on putting a pitch together, editing it, making it really good and sending it off. But you can certainly automate pulling in the responses and then add some filters, and you could set like alerts then just to be pinged when something's specifically suitable for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's the same with SEO content, right? It's like you're the modern day Michael D'Angelo and you take in this big block of content and then sculpting it down using ChatGPT and using AI. And these are tools to help you. But the best way to use them is not to just hand the journalist that big block. It's to sculpt it down into something quality and then pass it over, right?
Yeah, and this is clearly where it's going, isn't it? It's not going to be do you use AI? It's going to be how good are you at using AI? Like that's the future. I'll use it now to, let's say I've got to write an email back, an important email, let's say, something to do with, I don't know, I've got type 1 diabetes, so sometimes I get like an email from like my diabetic nurse back in the UK, and they're like, why are you in Thailand for so long? So I have to do a response that I know exactly what I want to say, but I want to make sure it's professional. Like I'm always going into ChatGPT. I'll blast out what I'm thinking and I'll be like, ChatGPT, tidy this up, keep it professional, structure it in a way, and then I'll get like an output and I'll go, oh, that sounds a bit harsh. Okay, ChatGPT, can you just tone this down ever so slightly? Then it'll have made it less aggressive, let's say. Because sometimes I can be like unknowingly aggressive when I'm like writing important emails. Then I'll see, okay, that looks better, but I would never use this word, I'd never use this word. And then eventually within, I don't know, 2 or 3 minutes of just quick back and forth on prompting, I've got a perfect response. And I'm terrible at spelling as well. And I hate spell checking with Grammarly. I have Grammarly, but it does my head in. I have to change every single word that I've written. That's how bad I am at spelling or mistyping. So ChatGPT is just, why wouldn't you use it? You've just got to use it better.
Yeah, that's it. The only way to get better as well is to use it more, right?
Yeah,
The
exactly.
more it becomes
Yeah,
part of your life, the better you become at using it, and then the better results you get from that.
exactly. Yeah, and just keep testing and trying.
Awesome, man. I think you've given some great tips today. Just to summarize, you've talked about how you can get free backlinks with ChatGPT, using Twitter, connectively is another option, finding and reverse engineering your competitors and then going after similar sources there as well. And we've talked about as well making sure that if you're using ChatGPT, chisel it down, sculpt it in the right way, make it quality before you send it to journalists. And then also, the better your profile is, the more backlinks you're going to get, right? And the more you're going to convert
Yeah.
queries into backlinks. Is there anything else you want to say before you go?
No, this has been good. Keep at it as well. Yeah, that'd be my last piece of advice. Do not be downhearted. If you're starting this out for the first time, you've got like a niche site or affiliate site or an e-com site, and you're going, oh, I'm going to get started with this, and you've pitched for a month and you haven't heard anything, don't give up. Keep at it. And one final piece of advice is, if you aren't winning links, you've been doing it for a short while and you're thinking, I'm not getting anything, go into the articles after they've been published for the ones that you didn't win. So if you're a gardener and you've got a gardening site, and Homes and Gardens did a query on what's the best way to look after daffodils during the winter, if you didn't win that and you didn't hear anything after a couple of weeks, go on to Homes and Gardens, try and find that article about daffodils in the winter or whatever, and actually go in and see who it was that they did quote, what the context of the quote for each person that they quoted in the article was, and how did what they say compared to what you offered. And you can get quite good instant feedback on where you might be missing the mark and where you can be improving on how you're approaching this.
That's super smart. Yeah, then you can reverse engineer. Okay, what's worked? Why didn't I get it? If
Yeah.
you can be like humble enough to look at it and go, okay,
Yeah.
these responses were better and here's why. And I guess
Yeah.
you could probably take your response and compare it to the other responses using ChatGPT again and give yourself a score out of 10
Yeah.
versus them.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, you could actually ask ChatGPT to give you like a bulleted breakdown of the differences in why ChatGPT thinks this response was better than the one you'd provided.
Yeah, that's it. And then
Clever. Yeah.
if you get that feedback now, it's going to compound and improve every single response that you send in the future, and then you get more backlinks of it.
Yeah. Exactly.
Awesome. And
I mean, no need for humans.
it's game over for us already. It's been,
Yeah.
and what's the best way to get in touch with you?
Linkify, yeah, Chris at linkify.io, or see me on Twitter, Linkify, or go on the website. If you want to have a chat with us, then you can book a call from the website as well. Linkifi. Sorry.
Awesome, man. Thanks very much.
Cheers, Julian. Thank you.
Cheers. So, thank you very much for watching. If you want to check out Linkify, you can at linkify.io. Links in the description, and you can basically connect with Chris right there. Additionally, what I've done is actually taken the transcript from today's video and then turned it into a step-by-step process, as you can see, for getting free backlinks with ChatGPT, including unlinked mentions, Twitter link building, some ChatGPT prompts you can use, as you can see, and even a custom GPT for link building and pitches that way. That is inside my free course, link in the comments and description. The module is called PR Backlinks, as you can see right there. And if you do want to book in a free call about how to get more leads, traffic and sales using SEO, feel free to book in a free strategy session. All the links I've just mentioned are in the comments and description. Thanks for watching, appreciate it, bye bye.